like
What's
right
up,
away.
Instagram?
Yeah,
We
and
can't see
Instagram,
your
we
comments,
realize
but
we're
we
a
see you.
different view here. So I'm wearing like my big open
Instagram gets the
Thailand pants,
exclusive,
and I'm like, woo!
the
I better be aware.
exclusive view right now.
Yeah, totally. Awesome,
Okay.
Katarina, my sister. Oh, you get to meet
Yay!
Katarina. Hopefully, Katarina, you'll be here for Thanksgiving, and hopefully Regan will be able to drop back down
Right.
in, so you'll get to meet her as well.
Okay, look, I think
Wow,
this
your
is...
phone just looks so awesome. You look so good on your phone. I love it.
Well, we can...
And hearts, guys, you are the best.
Okay, we definitely need hearts.
Oh my
'cause
gosh, hearts, right?
We
hearts,
need hearts.
hearts. I
Purely
love.
because we have like...
We so love
I
hearts.
feel like we need
at
a
this.
personal photographer
Oh my gosh, we have so many cool people
to
from all over.
photograph this. Guys, you
Yeah.
can't even see this.
Nigeria.
Okay.
Awesome, Nigeria.
Okay,
is in the
amazing.
house.
Nigeria is here.
I mean, Nigeria
Look,
is
can
like
you guys
locking
see
it
what's
down.
going on here? There's
From
like
India.
there's
India.
a full studio going on right here because you're on two. So we've got three
That's
phones
right.
rolling right
How
now.
we roll. And let's talk about that. Let's start with that. Even being
We can start with that. What's up,
location
Steve?
free, right? Location free. I posted the picture
Yes.
of, you know, this gorgeous woman like hanging out, rocking it wherever she goes. I think the picture I shared was when I was in Bali last. And, you know, last month I probably
Mine
traveled.
was from Bali too. Did
Was
you know
it
that?
really?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
It was just divine perfection
Of
there.
course.
So God. Yeah, so I mean last year I probably traveled 8 months of the year. Plus having the beautiful Manifestation Mansion is my home base, which is awesome. And we're talking about how simple and easy manifestation really is, and
Right.
how hard and complicated we make it, and the human brain wants to make it. And so it was interesting because Regan was
Yes.
telling me about she's here to kind of speak and participate and share in a mastermind that you'll be at tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I have the blessing of this gorgeous woman just dropping in and being able to stay here and getting some time with her. And she was sharing some stories about the last time she kind of participated, and you know, it's like a lot of times people make it so complicated, and you're like,
Right.
can I just share a different way?
Yeah.
Can I just share a different way? Can I just tell you what else has worked for me that could be way simpler?
Right.
Right? And then I was thinking about it, and I was like, babes, this is kind of how we both operate. This is, I guess, why
Right.
I aligned so much with Regan. Was like, she's like me, obviously we're mirrors, and yet doing it the same way. We believe in flow and ease,
Yeah.
and you know, a lot of that comes from belief systems and other things too, yet
Right.
we just live in a place where manifesting is really easy.
Yeah.
We're worthy of that. And so of course you get to travel the world and do what you want to do, and it's
Exactly.
just, you know, making it so easy. So it really is kind of like the way we've both aligned to being, and why I think we're excited to kind of dive into this with our 3-day event coming up in December. For
Yes.
the,
Yes.
it's like, this
Yes.
is what we really know. This is what we
Right.
really know,
Yeah.
and this can be so easy.
I love that you
Yeah.
brought it up as well, because I think for both of us it's something that we do really automatically.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where it's kind of like you're so good at it and it happens so naturally that you kind of almost don't even think to talk about it because
Yeah.
it's just your natural
It's
state
like-
of being.
yeah.
And yeah, it was interesting, like sitting in this event, like, I don't know, it was a year or so ago, and there was a lot of conversations about online business and social media and making money and manifesting and all this stuff. And there's all these people and they're doing it, but it's so freaking complicated.
It's a big process.
Oh my
and when I
God.
do this down the road, then I can get to that.
Right.
And, yeah.
And I was sitting in the room listening to what everyone was learning, and I was like, holy shit, like, I don't know about the rest of you guys, but I'm confused. Like, this is really complicated. This looks so hard. And then I was looking and I was like, well, I've done half of this stuff, but I do like one of those 10 things, and
Yeah.
and it can be so much easier and so simpler. And I was sitting there at the event literally being like, can I just explain how I do this? And
Yeah.
I mean, you can do it the really long, hard, complicated way if you want, or you can make it really, really, really
Yeah.
simple.
Yeah.
So that's what we want to talk to you guys about today. So we would love any questions that you guys
Yeah,
have
please
around
post up.
manifesting, around flow, around really tapping into your gifts and your truth, and how you can do this in a way where it's so easy and you have so much fun and you get to play so much. Like, I think
Yeah.
that's really the core of it.
Yeah,
right?
I think what's interesting, you know, is like I was actually talking to somebody a couple days ago about they're feeling some resistance. They're like, okay, I got to create some money, and I'm like, when that shows up, it's the perfect thing to go, oh, cool. What else would work, and how else would I love this to work?
Right.
And literally, within a minute, I'm like, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this. This does this, then that does that, and then boom, you have that, and then there's a product, and you know, it's like
Right.
easy. Like there's infinite possibilities. There's ways to do this, and everyone else seems to be like, well, thank you guys, loves for that, right? Because
Right.
it is all
Hearts.
available to you right now. And yet their response is like, well, when and this is what most people think, right? When I build a site, then I can advertise. When I
Right.
figure out what my program's going to be, and then I outline the whole thing,
Yeah.
and I have it all put together, then I can raise my hand and be like, hey, I have this program. And all these things, Bali Love is coming to
drink my
give
juice.
us some, no, Bali,
Yeah,
no, Bali. Green juice.
Yay.
We got Bali Love jumping in here. Right? And it's the same thing. We were talking actually about, how I even got Bali is from another country. Is like I have an intention, but there's no attachment or expectation, and how just flow leads you to the one thing to the next. So we're seeing the way that all of us have just been, it's almost like if you sit with it and you're like, oh, okay, does success is, and you tune into like what comes up for you. If success is hard, or sharing your gifts, or it's like we have this idea just because it was done this way in the past. And this is why I say you tune in and you go, well, what do I want it to look like?
Right.
What way would I like it to be? So we both created online businesses that don't look anything like the normal online. Because I've actually had some personal clients that were like high level online marketers, and I remember them asking me, how do you do your email list? And I'm like, I don't do email lists.
Right.
Like, how do you do newsletters? I don't do that. Like, it literally to almost everything was, I don't do it. I don't do it. I don't do it.
Yeah.
Because I've kept it simple. And yet what's matching, or what allows that to work and manifest, is that I'm aligned to that.
Yeah.
And that's such a big piece of it, where if you're, I always say, any business strategy will work when you're in alignment to receive.
Of course.
Any business strategy will work when you're in alignment to receive. Yet, when you're not in alignment to receive, you're like so focused on the business strategy, and you put all this time and energy and money investment into it, and you still prove yourself right, and it doesn't work, and you don't receive because you're out of alignment to receive.
Totally. Yes. So much yes to that. And I think a big piece of this is really looking at what is blocking you and stopping you, right?
Yes.
Because ultimately,
Come here, baby. Come here.
If you want something to show up in your life, if you want something to show up, and if you have this dream or desire or this vision that you're calling in, and it's not here and the here and now right now, then there's something internally which is not aligned to it.
Yeah, that you're withholding from yourself.
Totally. And I see.
Look at all those hearts. That is a really good nugget right there. If you're not, I always say, if you're not moving towards what you want in some way, you're in some sort of bullshit story, excuse, or validation. That's why you can't have it. So you were always the one that's withholding it.
Exactly. And I see this unconscious patterning going on with a lot of people, and I call it the if this then that pattern. So it's like, and people are literally saying to themselves, whether they realize it or not, well, if this happens, then I'll do that, and if that happens, then I'll do this, right? And it's so interesting, because it's like, if I get my business to here, then I'll start doing this other thing, and then if I do that other thing, and all
then
of a sudden,
I'll pay marketing money here, or
and it's so crazy, and we're putting so much of ourselves like outside of this and stuck in this pattern. And it's even like, if I get the money, then I'll be happy, and then they get the money, and then it's like, I'm not happy, because it's all unconsciously linked up and kind of messed up. And so I think it's a Polly's like
she's going through all the cameras,
maneuvering through all the cameras,
and we're still safe.
All three are still running.
That's right. And I'm safe. I'm like right on the water. I'm just remembering not to get too big and expressive, where I'm like, I'll go in the pool.
Yeah, I know, it's so crazy. And the thing is that when you start linking up patterns like that unconsciously, you never really get to what you're looking to manifest. So for example, people might be like, okay, well, when I have the time, then I'll start a business. And it's like, okay, then we create the time.
Well, then it's a do in the future.
Right.
It's outside of you.
Right.
It's a future energy.
Exactly. And so even if they then create the time, they're like, okay, but now I need the money. So if I then create the money, then I'll start the business. So then they have some money, and they're like, well, then if I have the confidence, then I'll start the business. And they never actually get there because they're putting this if this then pattern on the outside of it. So I think it's really acknowledging, wow, where am I doing that, instead of actually going straight to the source and connecting to the core of what I want to manifest firstly.
And I love that you brought that up, because that's something I know we want to dive into in our 3-day, is being abundance. Like being abundance. So there's a couple aspects to this. Even if you think about, like you just mentioned, someone has a scenario where they go, okay, if we're powerful creators and we can have whatever we want, they look at it and they're like, well, I'm in my job, I want to travel, I want freedom of time, I want more money, but I'm in my job.
Right.
And they're just like, I'm in this circumstance. And so again, the thought is like, well, when I know what I can do, or when I get a business that's working, or blah, 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 blah. And the massive disconnect, like you're saying, and we're just breaking this down, is that that's putting it into it's outside of me for the result. And I always have to wait. Actually, let me tell you guys what's really happening. You are being a bitch to your circumstances. Right? Like you're the one who's like, it doesn't depend on me. It's all based on what happens around me, right? So now the disconnect here is, it's not just going to suddenly one day show up. It can't. If you are operating in the belief system, the vibration, those patterns, that's what you're calling in more of. So when people are always like, they're so busy and they're in chaos, we work with a lot of high-level influencers where we take them from chaos to flow and upping their income and everything else, right? And so it's like, when you're in chaos, it's like, well, when I have more of this, I'll create balance. It'll never show up. It never will show up because you're in a pattern every day.
You're getting so much
of creating
love for that.
chaos, right?
There's love flowing on my life.
I know, look at yours.
Right?
I got loves, guys, on my live stream. She's got loves coming everywhere, right?
There's love everywhere.
Yeah, and when we realize, okay, so in this circumstance, how do I be it now? You can only shift it to receiving it by being it first. And so even to go, in this circumstance right now, how can I give myself more freedom of time?
Right.
How do I give myself permission to, love on myself more? How do I create, oh, cool, even if it's a small mini trip on the weekend, I'm giving myself, I'm being the person that's like, I'm worthy of travel. How would I get to create that and do that? And so it's always about, well, I want that. How would I get to actually create that and move an inch towards it? And if I'm moving an inch, the vibration is at least in alignment, that it's like, this is where we're going. So then the next step shows up, versus people are back here going, well, when it all shows up that way.
Right.
And again, you're wearing these blinders. I think of those, like, they put on the horses, right? Where they can only see right here, but you're wearing these blinders that it has to show up that way. And you cut out all the infinite possibilities of all the ways that it could show up, So, I mean, it's interesting to even, look at this idea of how we be abundance in all aspects versus seeking abundance. And so I want to tune into one thing. If you even said, like, I'm rich, if you say I'm rich and you notice what the vibration is for yourself, you might have thoughts or beliefs or things come up like, oh, no, rich people are assholes.
Right.
Or, rich people, don't have a heart, or whatever might be there for you. Or I had one with a high-level influencer client that was like, she realized how she was blocking manifesting more money because she thought rich people, if I'm rich and I'm beautiful and I'm this, people will reject me because I have it too good. And you see these internal little subtle energies that you're not aware of. And so even if you're broke right now and you want to manifest abundance in your life in all aspects, so you say, you do these affirmations, I'm rich, right? And that's what most people do, is just say some affirmation, but it doesn't align and resonate. But what I want you to tune into is, if you say I'm rich and you're like, there's no way I'm rich, I'm broke right now, but if you go, can I embrace that I actually have that trait and aspect in me? If I chose to show up on video and express myself, if I chose to do something I love and my passion, my purpose, my business, do I own the quality that I could choose to be rich? Right? And so starting to see yourself in even alignment to that, where most people see this is the unseen, that most people are like, I'm just here doing what everybody does, which is like, I'm just gonna, pay for this and try to get that and think about this and not tune into what's going on inside us, which disconnects the alignment.
Exactly. And it's funny you brought up the example of rich, because I used to battle with exactly that, and for ages I was walking around going, I'm rich, I'm this, and all these different affirmations, and I was like, why is this not flowing in? And it's,
why does this not feel good?
Why is this not feeling good? And I tuned into it, and for me,
thanks for the hearts, guys.
We love your love. We really appreciate
Instagram.
your hearts.
Instagram, your hearts too. Come
I feel
on,
like
Instagram.
you need to give us
Heart
some
it
hearts
up.
as well.
Heart
Like,
it
what
up.
are you doing? Right? I'm pretty sure there's a heart thing at the side.
My
Figure it
legs
out.
are showing. I could spread the legs a little bit. We might get some more loving.
We're willing to do whatever it takes. A heart. There we go. We got Instagram heart.
Anytime the pussy's involved.
Oh my god, it's so
there's
funny.
some sort of loving that gets to be
It's so
given.
funny. Oh my god, look at your live stream.
Yes, I love it. And you guys can't even see my pussy.
Okay, we're happy.
I guess they kind of can.
You can keep them coming.
We'll
we love it.
Just
we
keep
love
it coming. We'll see what
coming.
happens. We'll see
It
what
obviously
happens.
has a good effect. We get way excited.
Totally.
So this word rich, like I realized that for me, I had words being brought up where it was like, yeah, money was kind of a good word, wealth was a good word, but rich, it was like, oh, that means you're like greedy, and that means you're selfish, and all this other underlying stuff. And interesting enough, and this is really relevant for anyone in business with a message who wants to be seen and heard, the other word that I was like, oh, I can't stand that, was the word famous, right? And I remember a mentor of mine asking me some questions around like my visibility in my business and my following and speaking and all this stuff, and she's like, well, how famous do you want to be? And I was like, I don't want to be famous. And she's like, why not? And I was like, well, famous people are stupid. And that's okay, right?
I love
that's what came out of my mouth.
I love the
And then she's like,
up.
Oh, interesting. Why are famous people stupid, Regan? And I literally heard my childhood self and my family come out of my mouth, and I was like, well, you know, they're just dumb celebrities that don't know what they're doing, and they're just in trash magazines, like all this stuff, right? And then this person was like, okay, and she kind of dug in and challenged it. She's like, what about like Richard Branson, who's famous, who's doing amazing stuff in the world? What about this person? And I was like, oh my gosh. And I realized I was blocking my visibility so much in my business, because I was like, I don't want to be famous. So my vibration was literally pushing people away from
being seen,
having
opportunities,
having following, oh my God, all that stuff. And it was like, whoa, it's so crazy. So I think it's really so critical to dig in and start looking at, okay, what are these, you know, the languaging of the words,
unseen, our unconscious commitments,
what vibrations am I playing into? And then after you've started clearing this stuff, and this is a lot of what we're doing with people over the 3-day that we're running together, is really looking at individually digging in and what is blocking and stopping your manifestations. Like, what are these trigger points that are lowering your vibration so you can't
probably
step
don't even
into
know are
level.
there. You know, it's just our gift to kind of see what's there. And a lot of times, again, to ourselves, you could be doing everything and be like, and then not even until that comes up where it's like, oh, no wonder I'm blocking my visibility.
You can't
I had an
I
internal
couldn't see
representation, an interpretation
Exactly.
that just got to be upgraded. We're having a conversation with your 4-year-old self versus like your, you know.
Exactly. And you can't see your own blind spots most of the time. That's the thing. That's why we're going to help you dig in and really look at, okay, what is blocking you and stopping you? And then from there, once your plate is a little bit clearer and you have a clear field, it's like, okay, cool. In what way do you want to manifest? Because you really can manifest a gazillion different ways. And I'm not saying that, you know, you can't do it if you think it has to be hard and complicated and lots of hard work. You can
do it. It's just going to be hard for you.
We know a lot of people that are really successful. They help a lot of people. They make a lot of money. And it's really fucking hard.
And there's a lot of sacrifice involved. And that's okay.
Exactly.
That's totally okay.
And that's a choice, right? But you really have to choose this. And it's really looking at, you know, it's kind of like you've got this vision and it's out there, and we're going to start pulling it into your reality and into your now. And you start becoming one with it, and you start being that version of yourself. And it's kind of like this process where all of a sudden when you become, it's almost like you tap into this dream state with it, right? And it's like you become this version.
It integrates.
And it starts integrating into a part of your being, and you start walking and talking and acting like it already is. And people say, is that just faking it till you make it? And it's like, no, because if you're doing that, you're doubting, is it going to happen? Because you're faking it.
Well,
it's kind of like you're acting
huge, massive difference
right?
between faking it till you make it. And that's what I think is a lot of the surface self-empowerment things that we've been taught. That everyone is out there doing, and most of them don't have the result. It was interesting, one of my personal clients, he is a badass at waking up corporate America. And he was telling me, as now he's been getting inspiration to work with coaches on getting their programs in corporate America, he's like, I'm blown away to look at the results in this industry, is that how a lot of them are hardly, you know, making this much a year. And I'm like, it's phenomenal to me how I had so many that would apply for my programs that were out there saying, I teach you how to make money. And they were broke or barely surviving. So it's so common, you guys, for us to operate in this fake it till you make it game. And you can continue to be out there faking it till you make it, yet you're the one who's dealing with your real results as your reality, right? Like if you're struggling for money and this, that, so it's like until you're willing to take radical responsibility for yourself and say, ooh, this is obviously what I have as a result. What's going on in my vibration that's not allowing me to have that? So there's a big ass difference between this like imprinting, and this is something that's so important to me, and I know it's important to you as well, is that you're actually integrating and imprinting the way of being. So, because any coach and anybody can be like, cool, here's the structure, here's the strategy, you're gonna do this, this, and this, and da-da-da-da-da, and then this will go there, and that'll go there, and then you'll make more money. Just do this. And it's like, and people do it, and again, there's a disconnect on receiving, where when it's imprinting the way of your beingness, and this is why for me, integration is such a big part of what I do with my peeps. It's such a big part. And that's why also we're talking about like going internal to integrate. So what we're also able to do, we're doing a VIP day after our the 2-day event and the third day's VIP, where we can actually do some DNA activation and integration, meaning you upgrade your cells that they're ready for that capacity. They're able to withhold that amount of energy, opening up your multi-dimensional abilities, right? That all of a sudden it's like, oh, no wonder that's so natural to me. And now I can align to it as my true gift, that of course it's, you know, a value, that of course I get to be paid for that value. And it just would be like ridiculous for you to think of anything other than it being like, of course there's this beautiful exchange, because you're just here to have beautiful exchange. But when there's the energy of like, I have to, and it's lacking scarcity, or these, again, these unseen vibrations, subtle energies, or unconscious commitments that are running, those will always win.
Exactly. And this is where like the personal development and, you know, business training industry is really messed up in so many ways, because there's so many people going, here's a 3 or 5 or 7 step system, and they're teaching these steps, and yeah, like, okay, we need that, and we do need systems, and we need strategy, we need to follow the steps.
Systems and structure is great to allow you to be more effective in creating more time, etc. But if you can't call in, literally, I would say if you can't call it in without it, then there's a gap and a disconnect from allowing you to do it even with it.
Exactly. And this is why like 10 people will sit in a room and learn the same system, and then one person will go out and blow up, and the rest will be like, the system doesn't work. Yeah. And it's like, no,
what's the next system?
Right. It's not like the system doesn't work, and people are looking externally for the answers, and they're looking for the 10-step thing, and they're looking for whatever outside of them, where it's like, okay, cool, yeah, that's like the icing on the cake. That's like the 2% at the end. And what you really need to do is look at, okay, how do I align to that? How do I be that version of myself? How do I raise my vibration? How do I shift my frequency? Like, those are all the questions that really need to be answered if you want it to actually work.
Yeah, and I think I also, like, a part that I love is when you get to this place and we go through this, then it's like, cool, now let's play.
Yeah.
Like, now let's play with how do you want to manifest? Like, what do you want to, it's like, and it's infinite possibility. This will always shift and change for you. And then it's like, you know, I went from, okay, cool, masterminds, like something that I love to do. I love to coach and train so many people at once to, you know what, I'm like, that's every other week. Or it's like, you get to design it to be whatever you want. And there's ways to, you know, someone going from not having anything at all, no website, nothing there is ways to easily manifest. There's ways to easily put yourself out there and to be able to create something different. And someone was actually just heard me on a podcast the other day and was messaging me being like, how do you do the whole thing where you do, you know, you've only done Facebook and organic marketing and you're, you know, doing that. Like, how do you learn that? And I'm like, oh, that stuff is so simple. Yeah. It's what's blocking you is that you think it has to be hard. Right. It's like, that's just a matter of like, cool, clarity here. And this is, that feels good. So then again, it is in alignment. You're not going, okay, well, what I could do is if I just did that and I'll force myself over here. Again, the whole vibration is like, I'm not worthy of money and ease and grace and flow, and I have to do something that I think will make me money, so I'm operating out of lack and scarcity, and so you're just, that's exactly what you're getting in the, you know, from that.
And it's so funny with like simple manifestation. Another example of this, I don't even know if you remember, but at lunch today we were talking about being location free, right? And Marci's saying like, oh, like I'm feeling like I might want to, you know, jump into that, like back again in the future, and obviously I've been doing that for the last few years, and she kind of said, you know, like, any tips kind of thing. Like, and do you remember her response? I was like, it's really easy. Like, I don't know, you just kind of do it, right? And it's like, that was the response. And what's funny is that like a week ago on my Facebook thread, I saw someone in my community who's recently gone location free for over the last month, and she was like, oh my God, this is so hard, and it's been so stressful, and this and that, and boom, 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 and here's all the reasons why. And I remember seeing it being like, wow, that's so funny. Like, I never really went through that hardness with it. And it's like, why? It's not because I have a secret strategy for how to live location free. It's not because I know 10 things about how to pack a suitcase that someone else doesn't, right? It's not that.
I require that.
It's the inner alignment of whatever I'm going to do or create in my life is going to be simple and easy, and it's going to flow, and it's going to be amazing. I'm going to create what I desire. It's the same thing, right?
It's your way of being that no matter what you interact with, that's how you operate.
And it's like, when I told you that, you're like, oh yeah, of course.
Well, because even I noticed how, you know, as Dallas and I talked about, because I'm most likely, what's coming up in the next 4, 5, 6 months is I'm, you know, letting the magical manifestation go to be used in other ways, and I'm going to probably go, you know, travel to country.
She's gonna come play.
Yeah, and again though, guys, so it's like, again, you find yourself, and it's like, I've created a life of travel and play, even with my 2 boys, even being a full-time mom, single mom, and doing all that. And again, it's always like, you don't go, well, I can't because I'm a mom. Right. I was like, how does this get to work? How do I get to teach my kids that I am fully worthy of doing all that I love to do, and they are as well. And so we've created this, and now it looks like we've got some opportunity for them to go do some things, and I'm like, maybe I want to go, you know, to a place for 2 to 3 months. Yet this is the thing, see, as I tune in, I was like, what fits me perfectly? Yeah. Because I love being settled enough that I like get to enjoy, you know, like getting into creation and having good food and having a place to work out and
love for
all that, right? And so it's like, this is the point, is that you get to find the way that works for you. Now we noticed, because I was sharing with Regan how, you know, someone else was like, well, you know, I always worried about, can I get Wi-Fi and how am I going to be grounded in my business? I'm like, are you kidding me? Yeah. Like, this is like, of course there's always going to be Wi-Fi. Of course there's always a way that you can have, you know, calls with your clients or do anything all over the world. And when we drop the story that it's hard. So for me, again, it's like you. I'm like, I'm excited. Like, this will be easy. So much fun. I'm so excited. And other people are like, oh no, what if, And that just goes to show how you're operating.
It's just like a mirror into your internal system is all it is. So, you know, we talk a lot with it, with money, but it's the same with lifestyle. It's the same with clients. Everything. It's the same with relationships. Like, it's the same with all of it, right?
It's how you're operating. So it's like you're operating, and you're operating. This is what we can break down, and what we get to break down is with the peeps that are going to be with us, is how you are operating in your operating systems.
Exactly.
Because if one of them is off, it's kind of like this, where it's like, oh, I want this so bad, I want it, I'm worthy, and the other side's like, no, you don't. You're scared. You're scared that that's going to happen. And like, again, like rich. Oh, you know what? If I'm rich, then I'm going to be seen as a stupid celebrity, and you know, my family might reject me or whatever. Even though that's unconscious, and you're vibrating, you're saying one thing, but you're vibrating something else, and it's like, no wonder you can't manifest. But the moment you bring all the operating systems into alignment, it's like one direction, one vibration, boom, and that's why it's so easy to manifest, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Should we check in on questions?
Sure,
if you guys have questions, I'm seeing a stack of comments, but you're really far away, so
yeah,
we'll look at you.
Coming in.
If you guys have questions on manifestation, how to manifest
I love
simply.
this one. Oliver says, and Oliver set up, we actually fund feeding some groups.
Oh, cool.
Oliver set up, which is amazing. I love that he does that. Realizing I create happiness.
Rich. I love it.
I love that. That's a great
so cool.
share, Oliver.
All right.
Cool. Let's see what we got here.
Okay, let's have a look. We've got
we got a lot.
Okay, we've got a lot of questions on here.
A lot of
All right,
comments
you guys
and
are amazing. Jethro, watch up. Hey, Rocam. Steve, hey, amazing. Lakeisha, I love you. I can't wait to see you in a few days. Jethro, what's up?
Missouri, I got
Hey, Stephanie, amazing to have you here.
Catherine is excited to meet you.
Oh, yeah, I'm excited to meet you too.
She's adorable.
Okay, Liz says, I struggle with receiving after journaling. It seems I expect to receive disappointment.
Oh, interesting.
Okay.
Interesting.
I'm going to pause on that one.
Okay, yep.
And then we can go back if you want.
I was trying to see if there was...
Oh,
make
gosh,
sure Regan gets her green juice, Guy says. I got her. I'm taking care of her.
Thank you so much for looking after me, Guy. I actually appreciate it. Barley's going to try get it again right now.
Come here, Barley girl. Come here. Just come hang out up here. There you go. Barley love for the loves. Okay, so she said...
Should we talk on that?
I struggle with receiving... After journaling, it seems I expect to receive disappointment. Awesome. So I just say this is a clear reflection of your belief system, right? So this is beautiful, because if you say something and you're like, okay, I want this, again, but you tune in, what's the underlying frequency that's happening? It was actually one of my personal clients, they were about to do a launch, and I was like, cool, what's going on? What are you feeling? He's like, I'm excited, I'm like, describe to me some things that are going on. And all these words were like, awesome things, right?
Yeah.
And something about it I just didn't feel. Like, I believed that, and I was like, okay, let's just tune in for a minute. That sounds like your head.
Right.
Is there an underlying frequency that's going on here? Is there an underlying energy that's going on here? And he's like, as he tuned in, he's like, oh, I'm nervous.
Right.
I'm nervous.
Exactly.
And so what we try to do is be like, oh, I'm going to turn that into excitement. Now, that's great after we actually sit with the feeling.
Go to the core
the
of it.
discomfort. Can you get comfortable? We were actually talking about this on my mastermind today. Can you get comfortable in the discomfort? If you're unwilling to be fully accepting of you feeling like a piece of shit, that's not good enough to have it, and all those thoughts and feelings and beliefs and everything, to like sit with that and own that and feel that.
If you're saying I shouldn't be feeling this, or it's bad to feel this, or wrong to feel this,
or even who I was in the past was, it's like any energy, and this is something we're both so like being on like, any energy that is resistance energy is an energy of contraction versus expansion.
Right.
So if I have a resistance to anyone or anything or any way of being of life, and I'm putting resistance energy towards them, saying that's not right, or it should be this way,
when
or
it's linked to
I
what you want to
shouldn't even be
manifest.
like that, or any shame or blame. Remember, shame energy is the lowest vibrating energy. Okay, so it's always blocking manifesting, right? So if there's any resistance energy in your world and in your internal system, you are blocking manifesting. Right? And so when you can be with it and say, oh, I notice I'm still afraid, I think I'm going to be disappointed. I remember years ago, if someone was like, hey, I need to talk, I was like, oh no, what's going to be wrong? And I caught that, and I was like, that's so interesting. Why do I think there's going to be a disappointment? And as I saw, I was like, oh, that's interesting. And I got to be like, cool, like, what else could it be? And like, I'm so excited to hear. And allowing the space for that, and then it was always positive. And I was like, now I expected, cool, like, there's always going to be positive, great news. So you get to catch that first, that there could be an unconscious commitment that's running, of it, that it's hard. right? An unconscious commitment of I'm not worthy. So if you're afraid you're just gonna have disappointments, like I'm not worthy of awesomeness, so of course, you know, I'm gonna do this, but I'm expecting it's not gonna work out.
Right.
Guess what you just planted was the seed of fear in whatever you gave birth to, and it's just gonna grow with fear in it until it sabotages.
Exactly.
So there is a process, and we'll get to do this when you guys are with us in the 3 days, of actually breaking down any type of resistance, anytime there's any resistance, and you get so in tune that you're like, I feel something. Like, it's like that fast. I mean, people ask me all the time, they're like, how do you? I'm like, I instantly feel it.
Exactly.
Because now we get to bring you to the place where you live in awesomeness and live in alignment, that the moment you feel off, like we're so, like, we feel something, we hear something, and we're like, let's bring voice to this. Let's actually feel into this. Let's see what that's about.
Right.
Even the fact that Regan's glasses broke today, and we're like, ooh, and we're interesting.
They broke twice.
Why did they break?
Second time they
Left
broke.
side, feminine energy, receiving.
Immediately, but like, what does this mean?
She's looking up like spiritual connections to the sunglasses. We're both evaluating it.
I'm like, spiritual meaning of Prada sunglasses breaking. I'm serious.
And we're like, there's some sort of perception shift that gets to happen, and we're just both like, and the funny thing, I turned to her.
I messaged Wamper, and he's like, so who's behind the glasses?
So you were like, what are you facing? What aren't you looking at? And I even said to Regan, I was like, I so fucking love this stuff. Like, you can see why we get off on really diving deep. This is why we do what we do, and this is really why, like, even this 3-day it's rare. I mean, you do your stuff all over the world, I do my stuff all over the world. They're usually very intense deep dive retreats, and we're like, 3 days, how deep can we take people? 2 days in a VIP day, getting to actually look at all these areas that are showing up in your life, because how you do one thing, you do all things, right? So it's really easy when we tune into something like, you know, Liz, right? Like where you're saying that I notice there's always a going to be disappointment, or that's what I'm afraid of, or that's what I feel. So we get to break down where that came from, or what that's, or how that's showing up in your world, and all the behavioral patterns, and actually shift it. Then you're like taking the next step. But instead of just like, okay, well, I did this and I noticed that's there, that's the underlying frequency. Most people don't know what to do with it. So what do? They keep on the surface pretending, right? I'll just keep saying affirmations. I'll just keep spending money on structures and strategies and all these other things.
And that's what I was about to say. Like, you also have to be really, really, really intentional around what tools do you have in your toolkit for your inner work, and which ones are you using where. Like, I'm the biggest advocate of journaling. I journal practically every day. Like, I love it. It's one of my go-tos, but I'm also aware that it's just my mind. And then if I get really good, I'm going to start tapping into an energetic feeling. But that takes, I guess, a lot of practice to get to with your journaling as well. So, you know, there's a spectrum, a huge spectrum of so much which is available beyond that. And then it's really looking at how do I access all these different tools at all these different times, rather than just using my mind, because that's like 2% of what's really available, right?
Yeah, well, I always say it's like, you know, it's like using your pinky finger if you're looking at your entire body system. And I love that you brought that up. There was something I want to speak to with that.
Yeah.
And that it's even when we realize that the mind is just a tiny piece of it. So when you're like, we get to see all these ways, like all these different tools. Okay, now the difference is there's people who go to tools like, okay, I'm going to just go to this tool. That's still like doing a surface band-aid. You know, it's just like if somebody's like, I don't feel good, so I'm gonna drink a glass of wine.
Exactly.
Right? Or I'm gonna go to food, right? I'm gonna eat a cake.
Oh, cake.
It's cake time. And then I break through overcoming sabotage with food and food associations too. And and people can even go to where they go, they're like, okay, I'm not doing that, and they're like, oh, I'm fucking doing it. I'm doing it, and I'm choosing to do it, right? So there's in those moments, there's not just like, well, let me reach for a tool. The point is you become the tool. The point is that you become, like, we operate in a way, and I tell my peeps, I'm like, believe me, this just gets easier every day. We start catching it, and we give our, we create a new program. We create new neural pathways in our brain, and every single time we go there, all of a sudden that becomes the path of ease. It becomes the path of ease is what's simple and what's flow, and it's all these things, and versus you've just been doing it this way for so long, that's what you knew. And the moment this becomes a path of ease, it's like I tell my clients, like, now this is how it works for me. If anything shows up, like, oh, that's interesting, and like, what else could that be? Like we did today.
Right.
Like, oh, what could that be? And it's like, there was no judgment on it. You didn't freak out about your product glasses being broken. You're just like, oh, and what did you say? You're like, I'll just go into LA in the store and they'll just give me another one.
Yeah.
Like you already created that's going to happen because you even did it once before. You and they didn't have any receipt or anything. They're just like, we trust you. That's the vibration.
Like, we never do this, but here's a brand new pair.
For you.
And then they broke again.
Right? So it's like there's this evaluation and it's perfect, beautiful feedback, and then it becomes the way that you operate. So instantly, anything in your life, just like she said, if she's traveling, of course it's like, oh, well, how would this get to be fun and easy for me?
Yeah.
And what would be the most in flow? And we're worthy of going, cool, I have my Whole Foods order that gets shipped into me right away, or my team takes care of this.
Exactly.
And even if you're not at that level, you're at a place where you're doing that still because you're giving yourself permission. Just like first time I got cleaners, I remember thinking like, oh, I couldn't have somebody clean my house and my toilets, and that would just be so selfish.
Right.
And it was like all that childhood stuff of like, we're not worthy, you're poor.
Yeah.
And then I realized, I was like, wait a minute, let's evaluate this. How much money am I actually able to make by saving me that day of cleaning my house and being with my kids? And when you evaluate, it's like crazy.
Yeah.
Right? And so we're kind of doing a lot of crazy things based out of our human conditioning.
Exactly.
Versus what we're aligning to and our clients align to is that when you're aligned to your divinity and how you're designed to operate, meaning your operating systems are actually designed to manifest with ease. Yet we've disconnected from that effortless divinity design, and we've been doing it the hard way with the human brain and the human operations, and all we want to do is share with you how you bring bring these tools of your divinity and operating and being all the time. She's going up here doing this.
She's like,
right? I know. Bye, love.
So cute.
Hi.
Hey,
She's like, give me high fives, right? All the hearts.
Wait.
Oh!
She nearly took out the green juice.
She saw a lizard and she's like bolted and she tapped it. See how everything always works out so perfect for us.
Okay, Yolanda says, how do you live location free, Regan? Where do you keep all your stuff? Okay, so I keep my stuff in a suitcase. I know that seems hard to fathom, but I do. I also have little multiple suitcases around the world. But the whole point of this conversation is it's not about the strategy around how do I live location free and what are the 10 things that I do, but what is the internal alignment which created that lifestyle. I feel like we should grab Instagram. Should we grab Instagram?
Yeah, I was like, they got some questions going on over here too.
Let me check in. I think there was another question here.
Yeah, and guys, I love to what
Instagram,
Regan just said, right? Which is like, it's never about the how to, it's the who you're being, right? In any circumstance, who I choose to be will allow me to have what I want.
Amazing.
But if I'm trying to find how to do it, again, that's outside of me. Instead, it's inside of you being worthy of it. What's the question?
Nothing.
there?
I'm just showing Instagram to you. And you to Instagram. This is Marci.
This is Marci from this view.
Kylie says, Regan, it was awesome to see you on Billie Jean a while ago. Yes, being really mindful of how I limit myself with my own beliefs. And maybe do you want to speak to that? Because it's also important to also not look at how you're limiting yourself with your beliefs. But, oh, yes, amazing.
Battery? Oh, wait, let me
But also, how are you aligning to the next level of your upgraded belief system, which is a lot around what we're going to do.
Cord?
Amazing. Do you hold Instagram?
Studio we got going on.
We got so much going on
here.
here.
We're so all about the whole
We're
world
switching
awesome
batteries.
Gifts of love and light.
Jethro says, I'm working on myself every day, and it's bringing a lot of tears and negativity. I'm sure that's what I need to get into the brightness. Well, yeah. So Jethro was just with us in Peru, so he went like super deep.
I'm so happy for you. Oh my gosh. Anybody that gets to go do medicine stuff with us is just, you know, it opens up an entire...
It's next level.
It's like wiping away 20 years of this inner work stuff that we're talking about and doing it all just like that. So
it is. And I think there's something really powerful, regardless, again, of the tools that you're using, be it medicine or journaling, whatever it is, around how deep can you go into your darkness. Because I really have found over the last year or so that it's kind of like a springboard. It's like the deeper you go and look at it, the more you accelerate back up, right?
Well, Yep, and I always see it as, I mean, Regan and I are, talk about where I was like, what are you up to? What are you up to? Like, what are the journeys you're doing? What are the things that you're doing? Because we're always both so enveloped all the time on our own expansion and on our own, which is just our like, it's discovering and expressing our divinity. And, and this is a myth that I want to bust for people, is that they think that, you know, they have this judgment on yourself. Like, you're like, well, I'm doing all this inner work, or I've done all this inner work, or I've done all this. Like, why am I still having this show up? And I always say your core wounds will continue to show up because they're our greatest they're a part of our actual DNA structure, that you were meant to have these shadows and these wounds to transmute into a gift and be in your highest being as this being your core strength.
Right.
So these just show up each time to go, ooh, like interesting, like what level do I still get to go to? Do I get to look at of where I get to love myself and heal myself? And so, you know, tapping into feeling that the you know, sitting with the discomfort. How can we own our divinity if we don't realize that we're all things? And of course we have discomfort. Of course we have, you know, our spaces where we feel unworthy or not good enough. And the only way you shift the vibration of those things from shame and blame and not enough. Look at this. Right here.
Instagram gets close up and
boom,
personal.
sexy.
Like a mannequin.
Shout out, Bing. That's awesome. We have so much fun. We really just don't give a fuck. We just have so much fun.
Instagram's like, what's going on?
Yeah.
Instagram, this is what's going on over
Yeah,
here. Oh, look,
right here.
Instagram meet Facebook, Facebook meet Instagram.
That's so good, right? So something that is really powerful is to knowing how we can actually embrace and accept all of our darkness.
Yeah.
And we see it for what it is. So, I mean, in one of my journeys, I think I told you about this one, where it's like one of my very first journey experiences where I got to see that I was still carrying shame in my body from being 4 years old and believing I'm not pretty enough, I'm stupid, I'm ugly. And I remembered I had these visions of walking down the halls and literally wanting to be in an invisible bubble. I wanted to kill myself and drive across the road when, you know, when I first turned 16. It was just like, because I just, from the time I was little, decided I wasn't enough. And all that shame, now I could actually look at that shame and I was like, oh, sweetness.
Love on that.
Oh my gosh, I was a cute little girl, this cute little thing. And I totally just decided and chose that perception. And then I saw the gift of everything that it taught me. So it's like all of a sudden I embraced the shame. I love the shame. And there's no shame in the shame.
No.
It's just experiences. So these are some of the things that we get to actually own that are the unseen. You can't, and I love, it's Debbie Ford that says, what you can't be with won't let you be.
Exactly.
You can't be with your greatness if you can't be with your darkness.
And in fact, there's beauty in the shame and
So
there's opportunity in the shame, because it's really looking at how do you actually take those moments and use them as little clues and trigger points and pathways into looking at, wow, where is that wound that I can go and shine light on? Because ultimately, if you want to raise your vibration, you need to embody more light. And so it's looking at these moments of lower light or darkness where you go in and then heal it, bring it to the forefront so you can raise your vibration and be more light at the end of the day. It's
and
really how it
really
works.
the amount of energy that you can vibrate and that you can utilize in a form of power all depends on the amount of light that energy is embodying.
Exactly.
So when you actually activate your DNA, sometimes you learn these things, you have these experiences where we go, oh, I get it now. And I just see it's like you just remember some information that it's like, oh, I understand now. And it grids it to go, ooh, now I actually feel and align and attune to something at a greater degree. And that allows you to be more light. It allows you to embody or embrace more light and be more light. And that's why we're kind of like, we're having such a play day with this whole 3-day, because we get to go deep dive into, again, manifesting with ease and simplicity, which is both of our gifts and genius, seeing the unseen, getting clear on the unconscious commitments, also like dissecting and looking like how do you get to rock it, and like what is missing in the business structure and in the different areas of your life that are creating that unseen unconscious commitment or block and vibration. And then we get to also play with like some activation stuff.
Speaking of which, Katarina is on the line and she is coming to our 3 days.
Oh, nice.
It's so exciting, right?
Yeah.
Perfect timing.
Awesome.
So, just like Iconic on Instagram, because Instagram's here, by the way, says, how important is the place where you live to make your business successful?
Beautiful.
I live in South America, and when I come back, I always find it hard to keep motivated.
How important is the place? Oh, awesome. Okay,
So, like your environment and
yeah,
stuff.
right? Well, it's like, first off, it's like, are you giving yourself permission to live where you want to live, to experience what you want to live, experience what you want to experience? So we were even talking about this, how it's like maybe in the past where it's like you traveled all over and it was like, I go here, I got speaking, I got this, and then it's like, you know what, that just doesn't, that feels a little too rushed, a little too chaotic for me. So you know what, I'm gonna actually say, cool, I'm gonna go here and I'm gonna be here for 2 months. That's what I'm like excited about. I like to be somewhere for like 6 weeks to 8 weeks to just settle and like travel a little bit and play and create in that space. So it might be like, cool, if I go back, or if I'm doing something that doesn't feel good, why are you doing it?
Yeah.
Why are you doing it? Right?
It.
Yeah. Just stop. Just stop. Right? And that's the stuff that we get to dive into is like, where do I believe that I have to go do something to create money or to, you know, receive in some way? And it's actually, maybe you're receiving like this amount compared to you just receiving all this.
Exactly.
When you let go of the stories, you let go of the control, and you actually allow yourself to be in flow with what would serve you the most. But the resistance comes up for you to start to question.
And there's a great question here, loving the hashtag positive mindset, and I love Instagram, hashtag affirmations, everything's hashtagged. But I think it's also important to stress out that taking action towards your affirmation is also key. Affirm and take action, like boom, yayo, hashtag happy business. Okay, lots of hashtags going on Instagram right now. And look, it is important, but I think there's two different ways. Do you want to maybe pop Instagram back? I feel like Instagram can leave now.
You're like, Instagram doesn't have to be in my face anymore. Right?
There we go. There we go. I think it's important to look at how you're taking action though, because there's a lot of people that do all this amazing inner work and then they go, now I've got to work really hard and kind of stress out about it and do all this. And so I feel like there's a couple of different approaches to this. And what I see a lot of even very successful people doing is they say, okay, cool, now I've done all the inner alignment and all that good stuff. How do I make it happen? Right? And they're asking how. And when you do that, it's interesting because you're literally putting what you desire to manifest on your shoulders. You're taking full responsibility for it, which some people might say, great. I say, cool, it's one way to do it. But what you're actually doing by asking how is you're doubting if it's going to happen because you're going, how do I make it happen? Hence, quote, I might not be able to make it happen. What if it doesn't happen? What if I'm not able to figure out how? So you're actually activating a fear frequency, right? And you're putting this fear frequency out into the world. So instead, and I'm not saying it doesn't work. You can create it that way.
You can manifest
you can
money,
totally
success,
do it that way.
And you might also get to do it without family time or freedom if that's the way that you're choosing it.
And you might have to work really, really, really hard. Why is that saying low battery again? Stop it.
Let's see if this works.
That's all right. And so the other way which you could potentially do it instead is doing the inner work, and then from there, I'm sure it'll pop up if it hates it.
If you guys go off on there, you just jump on here.
Yeah, just jump on Marci's. I'm sure it'll be fine.
Yeah.
So the other way you can look at this, instead of going, how do I do it? I like to ask myself, okay, what can I do to accelerate the manifestation process?
Oh my gosh, and there's actually, I was thinking about that because there's so many goodies and tips that we get to teach on maximizing manifestation. It is so available to us in so many ways.
It's your natural state.
And most people have no idea.
Exactly. So instead of going, how do I make it happen? Instead, we start going, how do I speed it up? And what you're saying without saying anything when you do that is you're going, Bali's like, how do I maneuver the cameras? There we go. You did it. You did it. Instead, you're saying, well, I already know what's going to happen because I've chosen it and I've aligned to it and it's just who I am. So what can I do to speed it up? So the question is, how do I make it happen faster? Instead of how do I make it happen? And it's a very different frequency.
And I think just even what you're speaking to in the beginning is when most people go do inner work, and I say that because I don't believe it's real inner work. You know, it's like surface inner work. It's kind of like, again, for you to even be in a place where you would have to question, like you said. I think when you actually lean in and you understand the principles of like owning all that you are, they mesh together. They integrate. So you're not in this place where like, okay, I just learned this and now I still feel like a disconnect. You actually integrate and you are the connection, that it just is now a form of questioning and curiosity, which is creation energy. And so many people, that's something else I know we'll dive into, which is like, you know, so many people believe creation has to happen a certain way. She's chasing lizards. And creation is moment by moment. Creation energy. It's like, so this is part of what we get to dive into around creating flow and allowing you to go to the next step, to next step, to next step. So it's like looking at how, like someone I talked to the other day and I gave them all these suggestions and all their limitations came up. What, Ball? What was that? She's talking. Oh, now mine's low battery. Maybe mine wasn't charging either. Maybe we'll wrap this up. Anyways, but the whole point is that being able to, you know, be in the alignment with it, it integrates and you're just being it versus this disconnect, which a lot of people will do. So it's like, I see it now and it's just kind of like, again, we know we can't save you. We know you can only save yourself. We're just here to simply give you the tools, but yet do you choose in on creating yourself to be aligned to who you truly are, or find and discover your divinity and be able to express that fully and then receive in that. So it's like giving someone, seeing how it's like I gave her all these ideas and it's just like, I know if they just chose, okay, cool, well let me break this down. Each thing they had, I'm like, let's just break this down. cool, this would be an inch and this would be an inch, and you know that would guide them to boom, like a booming business and like so much more love. And their choice might be like, oh no, I can't because, and I just have to wait. And I'm like sad because I'm like, oh, I know it's so easy and it's so available to you if you just allowed yourself to take that next step.
Exactly.
And so we want to break down those things and allow you to see wherever you're at in your business or your love relationships or your body or anything that's limiting you, what are the unseen commitments that are happening, and how do you get to learn how to operate in your divinity to allow yourself to manifest with ease all the time.
Yes, triple yes.
Right?
Yes.
Right? We should just, boom, just like that.
Just hashtag
right?
yes.
Yeah,
that's
cool. Well, I think both of our phones are going dead.
Our studio is about to go. Game over.
Good thing everything worked out, right? Let's just do some hearts just for fun.
Let's close with some hearts. Everyone breathe in and heart out.
Right? And so obviously, guys, if you want to hang with us, because we're just so much fun, come to the Magical Manifestation Mansion here in San Diego. December 2-day event, 3-day if you are wanting to VIP it up with us. We're doing some actual activations and some deep dive stuff. We're super excited because, again, we created this because we love to play together. And we really feel like we can make a massive difference for those individuals in 3 days compared to what we get to go do all around the world. So this is really rare, really unique.
It's a one-off.
Don't know that it's ever going to happen again. We're just going to play it, and we might be playing in Peru, and there might be a different off, but this is what's available right now. So if you guys are interested in this, then please message myself or this beautiful woman, Regan, as goddess, and we want to tune in and see if it really is a fit for you, and we'll give you some directions if we really feel like it is a fit. So that would be the next way that you can manifest yourself being in this manifestation mansion with us manifesting queens and just rock out manifestation.
And this is really for you if you want to take any area of your life to the next level. And if you're sitting there and you're like, cool, like everything's good, but I know there's this next layer and I know there's more, and I'm really ready to do the work to tap into it. And it's very much, if you get and understand at your core that by looking outside of you is not going to get you there, and it's not going to get you there quickly. But if you want to really accelerate it, it's about aligning within and doing this internal work. And it's going to be full on, right? Because there's both of us the whole time.
That's how we roll, is pretty much full on. There's just, we get
only one mode.
It's straight shot. And I love that you actually brought attention to this, that it's like, we're telling you guys, if you're someone who's just looking for the next secret strategy, it's not coming to this, because we work with people that we know, like our intention is to liberate souls and to literally align them to their divinity of having it all. And so everything we're doing is deep dive inner, so that we can also tune into what structures or things are happening. Believe me, I love to go deep in the business stuff with my peeps. I coach some of the biggest businesses in the world, and we're always looking at branding and messaging and all these other things too. But all that comes from the inner alignment. So that's what we get to do. Yes. From who you choose to be. So
send us a PM, and then we can step you through the process. It's super easy. But just send us a message and just say, hey, I'm feeling called, and we'll go from there.
Yes. Love you guys.
We love you guys. If you've loved this, make sure you share this. Make sure you leave us comments below and let us know, what did you love? What was your biggest takeaway?
I love you so much. You and your sexy hair. You're just so fun.
You know what? It was so funny being in Jamaica, because they love people that are like slightly different or unique. So I'm not even kidding. Every person was like, I love your haircut from across the beach. And I was like, thanks. And you know what's even cooler? I got it done there.
You did.
It was after Peru, and it was out of control, long and fluffy. And I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? So I went to like a hardcore Jamaican barber and sat down, and the guy's like, you want me to do this, man? And I'm like, do it, man. And he's like, what do you want me to do? I'm like, just do it. And they did this, right? How cool is that? I'm like, yay. So yay for Jamaican hair.
So if you guys are a unicorn, a magical being, you relate to wanting to be cray-cray and different, you're actually like, I like the difference.
Yeah.
You belong in the tribe over here.
Belong. Come play.
Okay, guys, we love you. Have an amazing, wonderful day.
Ciao, ciao.